Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cash Flow Positive. I'm your host, Kenny Bedwell, and I have with me Will Van Wickler. We are talking about how to find, this is the part 2 episode for how to find secret emerging markets. So remember in part 1, we sat down, I told you all the data, the metrics, the know-how of how to find those secret emerging markets. And in this one, we're just going to hear from one of the best real estate agents in the industry. I love working with him at least, and about the market he's in. This is an emerging market based on the data, based on everything we talked about. I'll mention some data for the markets he's in, and we'll dive into that. But first off, I just wanted to welcome Will. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kenny. Love what you do, and excited to be on the podcast. It's great.
So, Will, let's dive into so this episode, color commentary. We're definitely going to talk numbers and data, but I want to hear your story. How did you get? So, where are you located? What markets do you cover? You cover a wide area, and how have you seen? It's kind of a bunch of little questions here. So, I guess just give us your background, your origin story. We'll start there.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. So I got into real estate. I was a college student going to school for cybersecurity, so very technical, numbers-driven data junkie myself. So I just look at numbers and data for fun. I was doing some IT consulting on the side for a real estate investor. He said, "Well, you really should get your real estate license if you want to invest in real estate." So I did while I was going to school and did real estate part-time. Purchased my first couple properties that way, and then realized, wow, this is a great vehicle to help others build wealth and a great job for me. I ended up dropping out of college 3 years in and saying, I'm going headfirst into real estate. And ever since then, I'm on this real estate journey. And I found a niche in the market working with investors. Being a realtor, working around realtors, realizing realtors, 99% of them are kind of glorified door openers and pretty much useless. And none of them are really investors. I found, wow, there's a big opportunity for me to be an investor focused agent, bringing people opportunity and helping them make good decisions in the market. So I cover Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont now, all focused on short-term rentals and just helping people find good deals. I own and operate a couple short-term rentals myself that I own independently and a few others through partnership, and just love real estate.
Yeah, that's great, man. So where's your home base again?
Yep. So I'm based myself in Maine. We have an expansion team out in Vermont. So we're covering that market as well. And then New Hampshire. The largest markets and the most business we do is the Sunday River region, which is Newry and Bethel, the Bar Harbor area, which is Acadia National Park, the Old Orchard Beach area, which is a beach market in Maine, and then breaking into those other markets in New Hampshire and Vermont as well.
Okay, I love it. So pay attention, everyone listening, pay attention to the markets he's naming. Most of those. I'd argue. So Old Orchard Beach is a great market. That was in one of my top markets list. I would argue it isn't a quote unquote emerging market because it's so old as a market.
Right.
Like it's been
It's
around for
established.
centuries, right? Like ever.
Yeah.
But Sunday
That's the
River.
funny thing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
All
Go
of
ahead.
these markets are established. And that's the super interesting thing about Maine. And when I have these conversations with people and they ask about regulation or saturation, Sunday River has been a rental market for 60 years. Old Orchard Beach has been over 100 years. There are still management companies that have key pickups in all these markets. Acadia National Park, short-term rentals are not a new thing in New England. It's just new to these, out-of-state investors because let's be real, New England's harder to get to. So it hasn't had the coverage nationally until, guys like you and Bill have really spread the word about it.
Yeah. So, and here's we'll dive into each of these markets because they're all very unique. You've got a ski market, which you just mentioned, Newry, Bethel. You've got Bar Harbor, so that's Acadia National Park, and then you've got Old Orchard Beach market, obviously. So these are 3 different types of markets, all in the same state, right? And then not to mention what goes on in Vermont, New Hampshire, all the ski resorts there. So let's talk about what has happened recently to make these a quote unquote emerging STR market. So number one, let's talk about traffic. So one of the things I talked about in the part 1 episode is that we need to be, and I showed examples of this, we need to be seeing traffic increase year over year, not just in the last 3 years from COVID, but just in general, year over year. So what are you seeing in, each of these markets that from your experience?
Yeah. So as an investor myself, just like you said, I'm looking for traffic and why are people going there? And COVID aside, what COVID actually did is it's bringing a lot of people back to New England, people that maybe relocated out of state, for instance, California, going to Texas for jobs, and then now they're allowed to work from home. So they're coming back to New England. And what that's doing is it's bringing families, maybe 30, 40, 50-year olds that grew up skiing at Sunday River, for instance, or going to the beach in Maine, bring them back to New England and back to their roots. The other thing that's happening is we look at activities are growing. So skiing is growing in popularity. And we look at it's the 80-20 principle, right? The top 20% is going to do 80% of the business, and the larger resorts are honestly overtaking the little guys. So Sunday River, for instance, large capital investment that's coming in. It's owned by a large portfolio holder that has a commitment to invest $300 million. And what that's doing is it's driving traffic. So when I think about
Hold on.
investing, yeah,
$300 million. That's
yeah,
insane.
I just breeze over it because that's my life every day hearing that. But it's a big deal, and they're actually doing it.
It's huge, right? Aren't they wanting to be the biggest ski resort in the Northeast or something? Like what would, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll
Okay.
jump into that because I do this every day. So I'll gloss over it. But Sunday River is already the largest in the Northeast. My favorite thing that I share with people is it has the most consistent snow in the Northeast because they have millions of dollars in snowmaking technology. And then they also, kind of quietly acquired a couple thousand acres to the right of the resort. They put the world's fastest 8-person chairlift in. So why would they do that? It's because they want to double the size of the resort and be the largest in the company in the country. And the leader of the company has even said this is going to happen. So it's not just Will's idea. This will happen. And the other cool thing is, for instance, Sunday River, this is stuff I look at. They're not a real estate developer. They have no interest in hotels, and there's not a lot of buildable land. So we're not going to see this kind of, hate to say it, Smoky Mountain effect with all these crazy neighborhoods popping up. It's just not possible. So it's a pretty cool spot.
So there's lots of demand, growing demand too, right? I mean, they keep adding extra runs and things like that in the area. And so tell me, is Sunday River Newry, is this just a winter market, ski market? Is that it?
That's the best part. It's a year-round market, and proximity is also what I look for when investing is how do we get there, right? So it's easy to get to from large metropolitan areas. There's a lot of traffic being brought there, weddings, hiking, fishing, biking. That's why I like investing in mountain markets. I own a lake short-term rental. I know you do too. You crush it, I crush it, but there's something about having 70 to 80% occupancy on a property in the mountains. You really can't
Yeah.
beat it.
Yeah, I'm looking at Newry right now on STR Insights, and the occupancy for July, June on average, this is average occupancy. So 81% in June, 78% in July. Okay. In December, ski season starts, it's 77%.
Right.
January is 65 and then February 72. So actually, peak season arguably is the summertime in this market, which is insane.
Right.
It's a ski market. So obviously keep in mind, everyone listening, these occupancy rates can change by bedroom count because group size and group demand. But this is a great 2-season market, right? So there's no such thing as a 4-season market. All right. So even cities, they have their downsides. Urban markets have, the slower seasons where rates slightly drop. But we're looking for these like 2 to 3 season markets. This is a solid 2 to 3 season market where even in the fall, there's like a slight dip, but it picks right back up after a month or two. So you have your mud season, April and
Yep.
May, and then you have this is the data right here. The data saying, look, April, May, slow, October, slow, and then boom, November into December, right back into business again. So that's awesome. That's a really, really cool market. So how have the short-term rentals are there a lot of short-term rentals? Like how has that gone in the last like recent bit?
Yeah. So everybody always asks me, are there new rentals? Is saturation an issue? The really cool thing about working in vacation markets, which is pretty much all I cover, is when I list and sell a short term rental, it's going to be replaced by a short term rental. So we're not seeing a growth of inventory. Some of the data tools outside of STR Insights have a hard time grasping the concept of replacement of short term rentals. When one goes away, one gets listed, but it's very rare that we're seeing new inventory being brought to the market. We're actually seeing inventory dropping because I will sell a short term rental. A wealthy family will come and buy it as a ski house with no interest in renting it. So we're not seeing this crazy growth in rentals. The only growth we are seeing is with new construction, but we're really just seeing a trade and a swap in the market because families are coming in and buying ski houses and deciding not to rent them, which is really great economically for the area. And it just means property values are going to continue to go up. And your exit strategy as an investor, you're probably going to sell to a family that, is going to pay top dollar and just use it as a luxury vacation home.
Yeah, and I I just want to back up what you just said. I was looking at the data because I was like, all right, is Will like pumping number, inflate and stuff? Like what is it really like? Do I truly believe? Because Bill and I have been talking about. Or let me say first, I was the one who brought Newery up. Bill's been also talking
You
about it
are.
too. So we brought it up in our other podcast, SDRnomics, and then it's really blown up. But and then you were the one who reached out to me, and I dove into it. So really the credit goes to you. But
And Dave Menapace. We'll shout him
Dave,
out.
yeah, Dave
Yep.
was the facilitator there. So I want to. I'm looking at the data. I'm looking at SDR Insights, market history. This time last year, 222 active short-term rentals in Newery. Okay. Oh, tourism. Crap. I think I lost him. I think I lost Will.
Wait, no. This is clean. This actually got brought down. Put that there.
Sit down. Nancy, sit down. What do you want? It's almost put down there. I do you want?
They actually got it down and it's clean. It doesn't need to be washed. Okay, we'll wash this one. Blanket.
I hope you.
Separately. Did she get pee on this blanket?
Recording.
I feel nothing.
Okay. We'll wash this separately. We'll
No.
wash it after we wash. Okay.
Yeah. I got these on this, Mom.
Okay, we'll wash that one later.
Let's down here. The baby. But more underwear back here, Mom. You have to. More underwear down here, Mom. And more pants down here. And more underwear down here. And wash down here. Wash. You got two.
You can pick that upstairs.
And more underwear. More underwear. Wait.
Okay. Yeah. Is it letting you in? Wait. You are in?
Now I'm back in. Yeah, it says joining now.
Okay, joining. All right. Yeah, because I don't. Yeah, let me know when it. Okay, there you go. All right, there we go.
I've never seen that happen on StreamYard.
Yeah, no, it just cut out, and I was like, "Oh no, is it my Wi-Fi?" And it looked fine, so I even switched. Anyway, we're good. Okay, we
You're
will
saying,
edit.
was I blowing smoke? Yeah,
Yeah, we'll edit all of that out.
good.
All right, I don't even know. Okay, so I was talking about
Well, yeah, you were saying, oh, Bill brought the market, blah, blah, blah.
oh, and the active listing count. Yeah, I was getting there. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll kind of take from there. So Claire, who's editing this, piecemeal this
Sorry.
together. Sorry. Yeah.
I don't
So
know what happened. Yeah. I'm a
anyway,
tech guy. What the
right.
hell?
So yeah, so I mean, it was really Bill and I talked about Newry a lot. You reached out to me, Dave Menapace, facilitated that conversation, and then we started talking about that market. And so, but here's the thing, I want to back up what you said earlier. So you said that there's been actually a slight decrease in the number of active listings, and with the rush of investors to this market, at first I was like, I don't really know if that's true. However, let's see what the data says. So I'm in SDR Insights. I went to the market history, and last year at this time there was 222 active listings. Right now there are 196 in Newry. So you're right. So there's less short-term rentals now than there were a year ago, which is amazing. And remember, and everyone listening to this, remember part one. Part of the criteria of an emerging market, how I define it, is less than 500 active listings in that market. So we're actually the Newry in and of itself is just 200. Now you have Bethel as well, and there's short-term rentals there, and there's actually another ski resort over there, right?
Yep. You have Woodstock and Greenwood, which are submarkets of Bethel. And what I always kind of like to tell people, and they kind of scratch their head at why I would say this, but I like being in a low inventory market. There are other markets where there's so much inventory and buyers can just figure out, oh, there's 15 houses that will pencil out. I like to be a little bit more challenged. And yeah, the sales cycle takes longer to find a good deal, but I know it's harder to find a good deal. So it's going to be easier to compete. And then the other thing about being in a second home market versus more of a urban or just larger area, um, people rent these houses sometimes just a couple weeks out of the year. So STR Insights, that's why I like using that tool to find and compare property because it's only full-time rentals. But if you look at other data aggregators, yes, there's more rentals, but maybe they're only available 14 days a year. So that's the really interesting thing about these second home markets is there's not a lot of true full-time investment properties.
Right. And frankly, you don't even care to include those in the numbers, right? Because
Right.
they're not focusing on cash flow. Say the name of the podcast. So
That's it.
there we go. But so all right. So we're starting to see these signs of, hey, this is a really really good market. I do want to go back to demand again. I don't know if you have the answer to this, so maybe this is the only I'll post. Do you know or have a rough estimate of how many people go to that market to ski Sunday River every year?
Yeah. So the funny thing about Sunday River, which I think is awesome, is they're not publicly traded. Boyne Resorts is a privately held mountain operator. It's not like Vail. They really don't publish this kind of data. The last study they did was in 2008, and it was over 500,000 individual skiers per year. That number has since tripled, at least, is what I've been told by the mountains marketing department. Because I wanted to know the answer to this question too, and they just aren't publicly traded. And you know what? Some people that really want to get granular, it's probably not the market for them because you don't have all these traffic counts and all this data. But a great way to track this is ask the towns, what are they seeing? Ask the code enforcement officer, what are you seeing for businesses? Ask the Chamber of Commerce. These are conversations I have every day in all the markets I serve. And the area has literally blown up. I've been going there since I was a kid. It's hard to believe only 500,000 independent skiers were going there, but we were also in a recession in 2008. So at this point today, it's well over 1 million people
Yeah.
coming.
And one thing too, so if we can't get the actual foot traffic numbers, one thing you can do too is something what I call consequence metrics, meaning like go look at the occupancy rates, go look at the average revenue, go look at the ADRs. Have they grown year over year? Which leads me to my next point, which is the true indication of an emerging market. So we talked, in the last episode, I talked about demand. I talked about occupancy. I talked about the number of short-term rentals, but the key here is, has revenue grown year over year? Okay, is it going downhill, or what's it looking like? Because we're seeing a lot of markets, the big popular ones, revenue is going downhill, average revenue. right? So the overall market. So if we take the last month that we have data for, so we're recording this in April. So I don't have April's in yet, slow season 2, but I don't have that. I have March. So I take March 2023, I compare it to March 2024. So the average revenue per short-term rental in Newry was $9,400. Okay. In this year, average revenue, $10,200. All right. So let me do some math here. 10 to, we're doing math on the spot. Oops. Oh man. Add an extra digit there. So that's about a 10%, 9 to 10% increase in revenue. So if you're thinking about saturation, you're worried about saturation in this market, we're seeing a decline in the number of short-term rentals, and we're seeing an increase in average revenue. So it's
And might I add, one of the hardest winters I've ever seen in my life. Let's be real. There was a huge flooding event in Maine, once in a lifetime event. The mountain was back open a week, $15 million project to get it back open, and revenue is still up. So that's why so many invest in the area. It's backed by a large company that they're incentivized to make money too, right?
Right.
It's a pretty cool stat.
So we're looking, obviously, we'll get to how you can reach out to Will if you're interested in this market or some of the other markets. But these are all these indicators are really important for, the fact that identifying this as an emerging market. However, the biggest concern that people have asked me about with Newry, especially hearing it they feel like they heard it late. Okay. Even though we're a decline in short-term rentals. That doesn't mean you've heard about it late. Like, it's not too late. So, okay, whatever. But so a lot of people ask me, so they're like, well, what about the future? What about, is this going to be the next Smokies or the worst case Branson Blue Ridge, where it just gets kind of blown up and then there's just not enough demand to support it? So you touched on it earlier. Tell us a little, like, what's insulating it? What's going to keep this protected in the future?
Yeah, it's lack of available land. I am involved in a lot of new construction projects. The largest capacity builder builds maybe 4 to 5 houses a year. We do not have these mega neighborhoods coming up, and it's simply because there's not enough buildable land. So what's going to continue to happen is existing home prices are going to continue to go up, and properties are going to continue to appreciate at a rapid pace. So, I mean, like you said, the last podcast I listened to, you were like, you don't buy just for appreciation, but that's a big piece of investing in the Northeast, in my opinion, because we just simply do not have the new construction inventory. We're about 85,000 home starts behind where we should be as a state, right? That's a crazy number. So prices are going to continue to go up. It is a good time to get in. I think any time's a good time to invest in real estate. And on average, the market value per property doubles every 10 years. That's a great number. So that's why we're not going to see a ton of new construction and a ton of new inventory. There's just not enough land.
Right. One thing I'll add too, if you are in this market, one thing I've seen is there's properties that are over $2 million and there's properties that are $700,000, right next to each other. So you can really, there's definitely that support for that appreciation line. Now, because we're cash flow positive, we focus on cash flow on the show. So we'll move on from appreciation, even though it's great in these markets, something we look for. So let's talk, maybe get away from Newry or talk about some other markets in the area. So tell me, so there's Newry, Bar Harbor, Old Orchard Beach. What are you seeing there to make these quote unquote emerging markets? Because they have the stats for them.
Yeah. So for me as an investor and helping people buy these properties, I look at the properties I sell as if I'd buy them myself. And I want to see, can I beat the competition? So pure emerging markets to me is, you have active listing count that's under 500. And then I always look at the competition and say, what are they doing? And you'll notice in Bar Harbor, it's a very sleepy vacation rental market where people aren't even using smart locks. There are a lot of them not providing sheets. It's the same in Old Orchard Beach. So you can very easily go in there using the strategies in these communities and really just crush the competition without doing a ton. You don't need to do an indoor pool. You don't need to have casino rooms or crazy game rooms in these markets. All that's cherry on top. But for Bar Harbor, for instance, having professional photography, you'll be a shining star just with that. So that's what I'm seeing in these markets. The operators that are coming in, within these communities that follow your content, Bill's content, are just crushing the competition. And it's kind of hard to comp these properties out because they're going to do so much more than the existing competition.
That's a really interesting point. So I see a lot of investors get skittish when they come to some of these markets because, especially Bar Harbor, because it's kind of vast, right? It's more of like a region rather than an individual, just like, hey, yeah, this, I mean, Bar Harbor is a town, but like when we talk about Bar Harbor, everyone listening, like it's not like Newry where it's like, here's a ski resort. Okay, you're in this area. This is a region you're going to be in near Acadia National Park. So Bar Harbor is a region. Old Orchard Beach is a town. Okay, so we get those clear. But when you're comping properties, let's talk about that a little bit because that's really, really important. How do you do it? What strategies do you recommend?
It all comes down to local expertise, and not to pat myself on the back, but it's honestly working with somebody that's an investor and understands these areas because, we won't get super granular here, but something on the far end, I'll throw names out, Mount Desert Island versus Bar Harbor, like there's not a big difference. But if you get too far out in some of these more cusp areas like Blue Hill, a lot of properties there, it's too far. And it's knowing and working with somebody that understands the distance. I love when people come to the markets and drive. We'll touch Sunday River for a second. Like a 20-minute drive is actually really far when you're actually driving it, and 15 minutes is where you want to be in that market. For Bar Harbor, it's a little bit different, and it's more based on geography for the town. So it's really being so darn specific on the locations in these more, I call them cusp markets or sub markets, where you're not going to be right on top of Acadia National Park. You're going to be a little bit farther away, but it's where in the towns are you located. And something I do with clients is I draw out a map literally and say, hey, here are the zones we need to look in. Anything outside of there is just a no-go based on the criteria and the revenue you're looking to hit.
Yeah, I love that. It's about the sweet spots. It's about identifying where in these markets, because location can be really, really important. It's not just about, the example I like to use is, let's say someone the Outer Banks. I love this. So Outer Banks is just historically known for like really like rundown rental properties, right? There's not that many luxury ones. There's a few now, but like a couple of years ago, there was like nothing. Like some of these properties, you literally had to bring your own sheets and linens. Like that's insane. Like, oh, I got to pack my towel and my bed sheets. Like we're going on vacation. Like that's crazy. So that's obviously changed recently, but like the quality, if you look at the quality of properties there, which very similar, we're going to see in some of these older areas in Maine, it's just significantly low. And so a lot of people, however, think that, okay, well, if I just increase the quality, but I can be wherever I want, I'm going to do better. And that's really not the case either. So quality is important, but it's not as important as being in certain locations, like you were saying, proximity. So that's the key. And, when we're talking about cash flowing, like we need to understand what the market revenue drivers are, and every market is unique. Each one of these places is really unique, and the barrier of entry, the competition is so much lower. So it's easy to get in, but you need to make sure that you nail the property's location. So any thoughts to add to that?
Yeah, the biggest thing that you should be having in your head is the word no. No is not a bad thing. These properties take time to find, but the ones that take that time really crush it. And it's about nailing the location. That's the only thing we can't change. You can add string lights, you can add a hot tub, but if it's a terrible location, you really can't win. That's what I would say.
Okay. All right. So we've touched on 3 markets. So, Will, I got to ask, are there any other markets on your radar in your area that like no one, even myself's not even talking about?
There are, but I think we should save those.
We should say.
Do we want to drop them?
Go ahead. Go ahead and drop them. So I'm going to go look them up right after, and this episode's going to come out, and I already know about them, but
I'm keeping my eye on the other side of Maine, where I think those are the best 3 markets in Maine in my eyes. But keep an eye on New Hampshire and Vermont. There are some sneaky low-cost markets in there. If you literally look on the other side of Bethel and you jump over, they're low inventory. So if you were to go on Zillow right now, you're not going to see deals, but when deals do come up, they are deals. I know, Kenny, we helped one of your property finder clients purchase her first short-term rental in Vermont for under 300 grand. It's a 25% cash on cash return deal. The North Conway area, Bartlett, Woodstock, there are properties where you can get them under $500,000, and there's some sneaky markets in Vermont. I just listed one in Weston, Vermont. It's a 25% cash on cash return deal. We knew we talked cash flow, but there's great
Wait,
opportunities under
you didn't send that
500,000.
one to me, did you?
I did.
All right, I'm gonna go back and look for it. So yeah, I'm
Under
like, wait a second.
500,000.
Yeah,
But if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
placed out
No,
of these
that's
other markets,
you
there's
must have
great
sent it to
places
me
to
on
look.
a weekend or something. But I was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, I've got people looking. So anyway, no, that's good. So Weston, Vermont. I know you mentioned North Conway. Are you worried about regulations though in North Conway, or how does that? Yeah, because that market can be iffy from my experience.
When
So
I say North Conway, I mean the greater area. I wouldn't personally invest in the town of North Conway,
okay,
but I'm always looking to grab traffic and be around those areas because I'm conscious about regulation because I'm an investor too. That's the last thing I want to see. What is cool is somebody took a swing at North Conway regulation. They shut it down right away, Supreme Court hearing, which is awesome to see. Still too much risk for Will as an investor, and I wouldn't put clients in that position. But I always like to try to grab traffic from those areas, see if we can kind of get around. One of the short-term rental secrets coaches bought a house in an area around Sunday River that nobody really invests in, and he's crushing it right now. So as long as they're the right location, right property, we can capture that traffic. I'm all for it. And
is that the one with the
there's,
views?
yeah, Daryl,
Yeah, that was
he's
yeah. We
crushing it.
talked about that before he died. He was really nervous. he talked
He's
about it.
freaking out. He
Kenny,
called me.
I
He's
need
like, I'm
to
gonna hit
know that this is
140,000.
going to work. And I was like, you can't ever know, but you've got some things here that are going to work for you. So, and he seems to be doing well. So,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. The
But,
truth is,
okay.
like, everything from 200 grand to 2 million, like the Northeast has it. It's not high inventory. There's not a ton of data, but the people that are here are winning and great cost segregation benefit as well.
Right. And I think that's really important for a lot of people. Like if you are okay being in an emerging market, and think of like the tech adoption timeline, like if you want to be a laggard or a mass adopter, that's after we're seeing increases in supply and decreases in revenue. So if you want to be an early adopter, we're like, you have to take a little bit of risk in these things because a lot of things aren't established, right? And when I say established, I mean like rental numbers aren't established. Those markets are very established in terms of they've been around forever. So really, it's just up the preference of the investor, the risk tolerance of the investor, their comfort level to actually go in and pull the trigger. But people are winning in these markets; they're cash flowing in these markets. So there are properties that, and Will, I love what you said. 25% cash on cash. I mean, I was seeing Facebook posts this morning. I was scrolling through Facebook, and people are like, "You can't find 20% cash on cash deals anywhere. That's not possible." And I'm just like you just don't know where to look. You're looking in the wrong
Right.
places. And the best deals are in emerging markets. They're in places that have been established. They're not places that are just, oh, we just found Maine. Maine's old. So like it's been there. It's just been under it's been under the guru and the influencers like radar. And so I believe in the next few years, we're gonna see a lot more popularity. So just a matter of, hey, if you're seriously looking, when are you gonna give Will a call? So that's really what it comes down to. Cool, Will. Before we wrap things up, I want to try to start. I'm going to start something with you. I haven't done this with anybody else. What tips do you have? Put you on the spot here to cash flow on a property or in a market or whatever. Like, give us some cash flow tips for anything in general. Could be acquisition, post acquisition.
Yeah, I'll give you two. The first thing is don't be afraid to invest in your education, and not just like a shameless plug for your property finder service, but I see the people that invest in education and learning before they're ready to earn are literally the ones that crush it. I have a client who bought his first short-term rental. He worked with you on the property finder. He learned everything he could, purchased a place with me. He is literally crushing it, like one of the top producing properties in the market.
It's
And
Daniel,
I
right?
believe it's because it's Daniel. He
Yeah.
invested in his education.
Yeah, his property is. Every time I go there, it's always page one, like top three. So he's doing. It's impressive. He did a really good job with it. And it's one of those situations where, like you said, like he invested his education. He was brand new, and I'll maybe I should bring him on the show and share his experiences. But like he invested in an emerging market where I mean, we had just started talking about Newry. So he was
Yeah.
like, I trust you. Like, I'm going to do, and he learned how to do his own due diligence and was like, okay, yeah, I feel really good about this. And he, kind of was like, Jesus, take the wheel. And Jesus took the wheel. Like, I mean, he's doing really well. But yeah, I 1,000% agree with you on that. And I love that. Love that example. So cool, man.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, it is accurately projecting expenses. This is where I see people fail, and that is what makes or breaks cash flow. A lot of people reach out to me in these markets after they purchased, saying, "Hey, I didn't buy it with you, but you know the market, what's going on?" And it's because they didn't forecast what their plow bill would be, right? We're in New England. We get snow, right? So, do you know what it's actually going to cost to plow? Do you know what it's going to cost to shovel? Mountain markets and New England markets kick people's rear end. That's
Yeah.
the truth. Just like other markets, just in different ways. And then honestly, not having good revenue management, that is what makes or breaks cash flow in my eyes every single day. I see it. People don't forecast expenses, they don't revenue manage, and then they feel like they're broke and then they have to panic sell versus the people that crush it are strong revenue managers. They know exactly what their expenses are and they maintain strong cash flow through the year. Because, like you said, there's no four season markets. I don't care what anybody says. There's down times, there's great times, but the people that are cash flowing know exactly what's going on. They have a P&L and they know their numbers because the path is in the math on every single deal.
The path is in the math. I love it. I love that. So you touched on an important point. There's two ways that you get a cash flowing property. Number one, you buy right location, like we kind of talked about, spent a lot of time talking about emerging markets. But then number two is revenue management, operating the property. So I can't tell you how many times we've helped people find awesome properties, but then they suck at part two. So thank you for saying that, because that is a big piece about running short-term rentals. It's not just about buying the right property. It's about running a successful property too. And that's the secrets of cash flowing, right? So
That's
Will,
it.
wrap it up here. What's the best way? I'm going to put it, this is going to go on YouTube, by the way. So I'm going to put a banner
Sure.
up. What's the best way people can get a hold of you? Is it your email?
Yeah, just go to my website. You can book a call with me. I'm an easy guy to find. Facebook, Instagram, like very easy to find. Will Van Wickler.
Is there
.com.
what's your website?
Yep, just my name.com. Easy way to get me, and that's where all my stuff is. It's fun to spell, but pretty easy guy to find. Reach out to Kenny. He'll put you in touch with me.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
He's good at that.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks,
And
Will.
I'm on STR Insights too. So hit my name on there and I'm right there. That's right.
Sweet. That's awesome, man. Well, Will, I appreciate you being on the show with us, sharing your insights and knowledge. I also want to highlight to everyone listening, it is really important that you work. The reason I have Will on here is he's somebody I trust. He's someone that we've worked with several times and has that experience, the short-term rental experience. And it's not just about the data. We want to have experience coupled with data. The two together helps mitigate risk with any short-term real estate investment. So when you're working with anyone, they need to be sounding like Will. To put it lightly, like, yes, you need, like, I was validating what he was saying by looking at the data and verifying it live, and the dude's right. And so there's other people like that in different markets, especially emerging markets, and you got to find them. If you need help, please reach out. I can connect you. I got a lot of resources, but find those agents like Will who are knowledgeable, that are talking about these certain points here, because that's how you're going to find cash flowing deals. So on or off the market, that's really important. And that's part of the stages of finding deals, is having the right agent. So anyway, thank you, Will, for being on. This was a treat. And I hope that the listeners, you guys took away something and you feel very confident in finding other emerging markets out there, or maybe you just call Will and talk about the ones he's in. So there you go. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend. Also, I would love any reviews. Put them in Spotify or Apple. Leave a review and give me some feedback. Thanks, everybody. Have a great one. I'll see you on the next episode.